This is question number 71 from book number 1 based on the 2020 NEC, and this is electricaltime.com. There are two trade size 2 conduits, raceway openings, on the same left side of a pull box where 4 AWG conductors that are insulated will get spliced. What is the minimum width required for this pull box from the left to the right side? A is going to be 12 inches, B 14 inches, C 16 inches, or D 18 inches. Just want to take 30 seconds to let you know what we do here at electricaltime.com. We do online electrical classes from the comfort of your home, and then we also have this free service. So if you click on the subscribe for free NEC questions, Monday through Friday, you'll get an NEC code question and an answer sent to your email. All right, so back to our video. And the answer to this question is going to be B, and that is going to be 14 inches wide. All right, so the first question we're going to ask ourselves is, what article are we talking about here? And we see that we've got a pull box. And when you see a pull box, you're going to automatically go to Article 314. And I call this, I have a nickname for it, I call it boxes. So I call it Article 314 for boxes. But in the code, the true name is going to be outlet device, pull and junction boxes, conduit bodies, fittings, and hand hole enclosures. And that's going to be within Chapter 3, Wiring Methods and Materials. And we look in Article 314 for boxes, and then we find part number 2 for installation. Then we find 314.28, pull and junction boxes and conduit bodies. Then we find 314.28a, that talks about the minimum size. And that's very important when you're determining if this is a pull box or if it's just a regular box fill. All right, but in all cases, you have to make sure that you comply with both. All right, but when we talk about a pull box, we have certain simplified rules, which if you follow them, you should be okay, but you also should be cognizant of, box fill as well. All right, so again, just keep that in the back of your mind. And if you see a pull box just looks way too jammed up with conductors, you might want to stop and do a manual box fill on that. But for exam purposes, when we tell you it's a pull box, it's going to be a pull box. All right, so again, this is for exam purposes. So then we find 314.28a2, and that is called angle or U-pulls or splices. So if it's an angle pull, if it's a U-pull or it's a splice, then we're going to look at 314.28a2. So let's get back to 314.28a, and that's called minimum size. And that tells us that the rules for a pull box are to be used when we have conductors that are 4 AWG or larger and required to be insulated. And that is the case here, so this is a pull box. 314.28a2 talks about angle, U-pulls, or splices, and in this question, there are conductors that will emerge from these conduits that are on the same left side of this pull box, and where they will get spliced. Regardless if this was an angle, a U-pull, or splice, the rules are the same. 314.28a2 tells us to take the largest raceway entry on each side and multiply it by 6 times, and to add any additional raceway entries to that number, and then that will be the minimum distance to the opposite wall of that pull box. Each raceway opening is trade size 2, so we take 2 inches times 6 and add 2 inches to get 14 inches. So let's do the math down here. So we took 2, and that's for trade size 2, and we used to be able to call that like a 2-inch conduit. I still do. I haven't gotten used to saying trade sizes yet, but that's what we're supposed to be saying. So trade size 2, think of that like the 2-inch conduit. And then we multiply that by 6. and that we're going to add 2 to that, and that's going to give us 14 inches wide, and that is our answer. All right, got some extra stuff in here to take a look at that I'd like you to consider. Also, be aware that the distance between these raceway entries in this pull box also have to be a certain distance from each other too. They cannot be snuggly wuggly right next to each other. 314.28a2 tells us that the distance must be at least 6 times the largest raceway entry for either an angle, U-pull, or splice. In this example, the minimum distance between these raceway entries has to be at least 12 inches apart from each other on that same side. In this example, since each raceway entry is 2 inches, and 2 inches times 6 is going to equal 12 inches. Make sure you account for this before you punch out the holes in your pull box. We want to give the conductors enough room so that they can bend and form this letter U comfortably in this example. You don't want the poor electrical inspector to get bent out of shape as you are getting red flagged for this. And again, the answer is going to be B, and that's going to be 14 inches wide. Code reference 314.28A2.